I hope all of you are safe and well under this critical situation of COVID-19, and I'm sure we will all come out of this very soon. Let me give a little brief about myself. My name is Dr. Shyam Zawar. Presently, I'm working as a Chief Executive Officer of JK Trust and a Chief Scientist of JK Bovagenics. I graduated from Bombay Veterinary College in the year 1972, did my master's in gynecology in 74, and then I joined in Raymond in 1975. Till date, I have been working with them, so almost I have put in 45 years of my service with one single organization. While doing my job, right from day I joined them at the sheep breeding farm at Dhulia, I have been involved into all assisted reproductive technologies. Well, back in 1975, working with the sheep, then I did some work on goat and then on cattle. That led me to make a PhD in the year 1989 while in the job. And I think that was the first PhD in the country on superovulation in sheep, goat, and cattle. Now, thereafter, while in the job, I did my senior management program from IIM Calcutta. I did my senior management programs from London Business School and Harvard Business School. Embryo transfer has been always a very subject very close to my heart. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, but I dream in and out, day in and out of just the embryos and embryo transfer. And that's how I'm really engaged into this whole embryo transfer technology. Now, give me just few seconds as I want to share my screen and start with the presentation. Before that, I would like to say you a few things that at the bottom of your screen, you will find a question and answer icon. So you can type your questions during my talk. And at the end of the talk, I will try to answer your questions at the end. So meanwhile, it is enabled and you can type your question during my speech. Give me a few seconds as I'm sharing my screen and start with the presentation. So as you know, the topic is application of IVF technology in cows and buffaloes at the doorstep of the farmers, because this is the topic where we want to talk about how did we reach from the lab to land experiment. Now, the presentation outline is that I'll be talking about JK Trust and then giving you about the technology as to what is this IVF technology all about, tell little difference between in vivo and in vitro, and then we talk about our achievements, not only at our own farm, but we talk about our achievements at the field level. I would like to just give a small brief about our trust. Our trust is led by the dynamic leader and who is the chairman of our trust, Shri Gautam Hari Singhania, who is also chairman and managing director of Raymond Limited. JK Trust is one of the largest NGO in the field of animal husbandry in the country. We have the main focus of livelihood generation through intervention in the field of animal husbandry, and this is done through the cattle breed and buffalo breed improvement program through artificial insemination. We have a grassroots level worker who is named as a Gopal, who covers about 8 to 10 villages and provides the services at the doorstep of the farmers. As on date, we have about 3,000 integrated livestock development centers spread across in 114 districts of 10 states of the country. And this is benefiting about 3 million households residing in 30,000 villages. Till date, we have produced about 5 million upgraded and crossbred cows through this program. This is the background about our trust. And let me tell you a little journey about our organization. It also goes in parallel with me. 1970, Raymond established a sheep breeding farm at a place known as Dhulia in Maharashtra, and I joined them in 1975. From 75 to 83, we were doing a lot of work on embryo transfer in cattle and various reproduction aspects of the sheep. In 83, we had to close down that farm because of some problem, and then we moved to cattle embryo transfer work, and we established a Raymond Cattle Embryo Research Center at a place known as Gopal Nagar in Chhattisgarh state. We worked there from 1983 till the year 2000, almost for 17 years, continuously on in vivo embryo transfer work, produced a lot of embryo transfer bulls, supplied all over the country for the breeding program. Then there was a pause from year 2000 to almost say up to 2016, wherein I focused myself onto the cattle breed improvement program through artificial insemination across the country. But that inner instinct was there with me, and then I convinced my management, and then we decided to again take up this work of assisted reproductive technology with the latest technology, which is IVF. And in 2016, we established a world-class laboratory near Pune at a place known as Vadgaon, Rasai. And that's where since 2016 till to date, we have been working on various aspects of IVF in cattle, which you will hear from me in next few minutes. There are means of genetic improvement in cattle, as you all know. First is natural breeding and artificial insemination, wherein you can expect to get only one pregnancy in a year. Artificial insemination, no doubt, is a cost-effective, but only, and it taps the male genetic potential. But artificial insemination is very important in the context of our country because it is for the general mass and it is very cost-effective. The another technique which came in few years back, which is multiple ovulation and embryo transfer through in vivo procedure. It had also got good applications of producing good bulls at bull mother farm. And the last but not the least, which is the latest one, which is being followed all over the world, is ovum pickup in vitro embryo production, which is costly, but it taps both male and female characters, genetics, and only, unlike in vivo, we are only touching the ovaries and we are not touching the reproductive tract. Let me start my main presentation with this wonder cow. You can see she is named as a Gauri. Gauri is the cow which made JK Trust, which brought JK Trust, I think, in limelight. She was all across in various newspapers, media, because from her, we got 77 IVF pregnancies established in a short span of 13 months. And we conducted 33 aspirations on her. In just 13 months, produced 286 IVF embryos and got 77 pregnancies. 56 are at our farm and 21 are spread across the country. Till to date, we have 26 cows born out of this cow, IVF calves, which I will tell you further. And I will talk more in details about this wonder cow. Now, as I told you, JK Trust is a main organization, but then for telling our efforts about JK, this IVF, we coined this as a JK Bovagenics, and we started this work in 2016. When we started the work, that time this Rashtriya Gopal Mission was just about to start, so we thought, why not, in line with the flagship program of the Government of India, let us start the work with our own indigenous breeds. So we focused right from beginning on our own indigenous breed and started working on that. And initially for 1.5 years, we have been totally working at our farm only, and gradually, one by one, day by day, we started introducing the technology at the field level, at the farmer's doorstep. And once we got really confidence in that, we went across and started serving various parts of the country. Now, what are the main uses of the IVF in cattle? You can have animals with a dysfunctional reproductive anatomy, which are not responding to gonadotropin, females that stimulate but do not fertilize, sick or injured female. You can have a young heifers, prepubertal heifers, even a pregnant animals which are up to 3 months of pregnancy you can have. you can utilize the semen in a very efficient way. And another thing is that the most expensive semen also can be utilized in a very efficient way. Even the sex semen has got a great application with this IVF technology. Now, these are our facilities at Wadgaon near Pune. I welcome whoever is interested. They are most welcome to visit our facilities by informing us in advance. Now, this is our inside view of our laboratory, which is at a glance you can see very well equipped with the latest equipments. I'm just running down this. This is the inverted microscope, and then on this we have got these equipments like embryo freezing and labeling machine. The benchtop incubator, these are the incubators in which we culture the embryos, which are got a tri-gas supply. Then there is a pass box in between the laboratory and the oocyte aspiration shed. These are the major IVF lab equipments. You can see this is a freezer, autoclave, refrigerator, and different equipments which are there. This is another trolley wherein all the equipments required for OPU are placed. This is a chute where we keep our donor animal. And now let me come to the straightway. The first topic is this OPU. This is ovum pickup, or some people call it as aspiration also. So now this is the OPU from a Gir donor cow. Here is my colleague, Dr. Vinod Patil. Let me brief you some of these equipments. This is small, nice, portable ultrasound. We have got few of them, which you can just put it, it's a very comfortable. This red thing which you find is a warmer, a 50 ml tube warmer, which is kept at 37.5 degrees centigrade, wherein, all the oocytes which are collected are coming through a tubing and goes into it. Oocytes, embryos, they always like to be at between 37 to 38 degrees centigrade. So that's where we have to make sure that we don't have too low or too high temperatures. Now this is a OPU needle handle which is holding it, in which this transvaginal probe is being put in, covered with a probe cover, and then it is connected to this ultrasound monitor. And then there is at the bottom over here is a suction pump, which you need it during aspiration. Now it's a single man work. The whole tubing and everything is you just hang into your neck and you have your eyes focused on the ultrasound, put this needle holder into the vagina, through the vulva into the vagina, and through the vaginal fold, you take the needle which is being put, small needle, you just take it, first fix the ovaries on your probe and then put the needle across the follicle and go on puncturing the follicle. It looks very simple, that puncturing the follicle, but really all of us, those who have taken a training in the United States, have gone through lots of pains, because majority of the times we are puncturing our fingers rather than puncturing the follicles. And these needles are very sharp and very painful. But we have to learn that way only. Now this is an interesting OPU from a Punganur cow. It's a very short breed from Andhra Pradesh, wherein you can't do even OPU in a standing position. You will have to sit down and do the OPU. Now this is a video wherein it's showing how the needle is going into the follicle. See this ovary. Even this is not stimulated but full of follicles. Let me tell you, the Bos indicus breeds, they don't need stimulation. Our all indigenous breeds, they are so good in producing good number of ova without stimulation. And only you will need it into the Bos Taurus breeds. So you will easily get lots of ova even without stimulation. That saves our expenses on the stimulation. Now, this is how, with the needle coming in, you can see the follicle getting punctured, and the ovum is being picked up through the tubing, and it comes into that 50 ml conical tube. But you don't get all 100% ova being recovered. You may get about 50 to 60% ova recovered. That's what we call it as a recovery percentage. So you count the follicle and you record the ova and you work out the recovery percentage. There are many reasons of not getting 100% recovery. Now, The oocytes, once they are collected into that tube, you put them into a filter and wash them so that in a small fluid, in a small quantity of that OPU recovery medium, which we use it for recovery of the oocytes, you can examine the oocytes. This whole procedure of oocyte aspiration should be done in 15 minutes maximum, and which we do it. And another 10 to 15 minutes are reserved for the rest of the 15 minutes are reserved for our to see the oocytes quality. I mean, you can see the quality of the oocytes. These oocytes they can be seen, and these oocytes, they are of a different quality, A, B, C, D. Depending on the cumulus cells, you can see in the A, you will have this lot of cells around them, and there's B where you will have few cells, and C. And D and E are almost denuded, so they are not good for fertilization. A and B, you have got much more better chances of fertilization, and including C also. Now, next few steps are IVM, what we call in vitro maturation. IVF is the in vitro fertilization, and IVC is the in vitro culture. Now, once the oocytes are being selected and they are graded, you have to put them, we call it the immature oocytes. They go into the in vitro maturation medium, and they are kept into CO2 incubator for about 22 to 24 hours for maturation. And they mature over this period within 22 to 24 hours. And then after the maturation, they will look like this. You can see the cumulus cells around them are quite loosened. Now, the next step, I want to just in between say about this micro-Q incubator. You know, these are the incubator which we use it for transport of oocytes from one place to another place. Say if you are going to a farmer's place for oocyte aspiration, we take this incubator with the vials and the media, and they are maintained at 38.5 degrees centigrade. And the oocytes collected are put into this, and then these incubators can be carried, and wherein we use this IVM media, which is a HIPS media, so you can carry them, and they have to reach the laboratory within 24 hours. So the maturation will be occurring on the way as it has been into the IVM HIPS media. But there are another incubators also recently now have come, wherein there is a tri-gas supply known as a lab mix incubator, wherein you can use a regular IVM media, and then there is a gas supply, so they will still mature on the way. Now, these oocytes, once they are matured, we are preparing them for doing the IVF. And for IVF, we just look at these oocytes, how the maturation has gone, and then we start the steps of the IVM, for which we have to select the semen, right bull of the right breed, do an extensive semen evaluation on various aspects, motility, progressive motility, live and dead count, and various steps. And they have to be semen. Once you thaw it, you have to centrifuge it in 2 steps. I don't want to go into that much detail because it will take more time. And then you decide as to how many, then you land with a pellet which is having a live sperms in it, and you decide the number of sperms you require on the basis of the number of oocytes to be fertilized. Accordingly, that calculation is done, and then you put that many sperms into the dish having the oocytes. You will see this through a video. You can see the sperms going around the oocytes. Everybody wants to get entry into the oocyte because they want to fertilize. And as you know, only one lucky sperms get into the entry, and thereafter there is no entry, and further entry to the sperms is blocked. So this is how the IVF procedure, you put the sperms, and then these dishes, then they are again kept into the benchtop incubator. These benchtop incubators, you keep them, and then they are maintained for another 20 to 22 hours after IVF. Then on 3rd day, you take them out, and that is for the in vitro culture. So now, we are not sure whether they are fertilized or not. So we call them as a potential zygote or presumptive zygotes. And these are the one which you can see into the slide over here. They are the one, you clean them on third day when we are putting it for IVC, and then for future, for 7 days, you need to clean them through a vortexing or through the stripping procedure, and you clean all the cumulus around them. So these zygotes, potential zygotes, then they are being kept back into these are the benchtop incubators. These benchtop incubators are same like which are used in human beings, and then they are kept for 7 days here, and we don't disturb them in between. But we sometimes, it is advised also that if you want to see the cleavage, you can do it on the 4th day of the IVF. 4th day of the IVF, we do see the dishes quickly and keep them back to know the cleavage. So they are kept, considering IVF day as a 0 day, we are keeping them for 7th day to grow. And ultimately, we are very keen and excited to know as to how many embryos have developed it. So first thing in the morning, as per the timing, we check the dishes and we know as to what sort of embryos we get it. These are the divisions which are occurring. I need not go into the detail, 1 cell to 2 cell to 4 cell, then 8 cell, 16, and early morula. These are the morullas which we will see when you do in vivo flushing. But when you are doing the in vitro work, normally you will not get morullas, you will land with blastocyst or expanded blastocyst, because we are the 7th day. So they are beautiful expanded embryos. But this is not all you will get. You will get some unfertilized and some degenerated, which are not grown, but we have to look for these one. And this is the one which you transfer it, fresh transfer, or you freeze them. This is a cluster of embryos, I'm showing it, which are produced at our facility. Just 1 second. Now, to summarize the whole procedure, you can see a donor cow, and then she is done ovum pickup, and then we have an in vitro maturation and fertilization and culture, and blastocysts are ready. You either transfer them or freeze them. The 2 methods of freezing, one is the transfer of the fresh embryos, and another is freezing of embryos, which can be done by slow freezing or it can be done by vitrification. So these are the 2 methods of freezing. I don't want to go into more details. If anybody is interested, they can get in touch with me or email to me. I'll share my contact number subsequently. Now, this is the lab mix incubator I was referring about. This has got a tri-gas supply. You can carry oocytes, you can carry embryos, and you can take them as a hand baggage. We normally take them as a hand baggage, but we carry so many passengers, but we don't pay for any of their air tickets. Now, this is how, now let me come to the services, how we are provided at the farmer's doorstep. We have been taking long distance transport of these oocytes by air from farmer's doorstep to our IVF lab, which are located at Pune, and IVF embryos vice versa to the doorstep for transfer when we are doing fresh transfer. We have also one big van and 3 small mobile ET IVF labs van, which are parked at the farmer's place for collection of oocytes, even for production of embryos. And these vans are totally equipped with every equipment you need to produce the embryos from oocyte to embryo stage. And this we have demonstrated it by doing it at a couple of farmers' places across the country. Frozen IVF embryos are also taken from the lab to the farm. They are easy to carry it. Now, see, this is the way. See, these are the embryos, beautiful blastocysts. Another way, there is a straw incubator. If you want to go nearby distance, maybe 4 or 5 hours distance, they are also okay to use it. You load these embryos, fresh embryos, into a holding media, put this in straw, and then you have this incubator with maintained at 37 degrees centigrade, and you go and transfer them. But if you want to take a long distance, and you can take the embryos on 6th day, you can take out from incubator, put into that transport incubator. So when you are traveling, even the embryos are also growing during your journey. Now, these are the fleet of vans we have. It's a beautiful big van. We initially made it fully equipped, and these are the small van. Originally, we thought that we really need a big van and all that, but subsequently we can fit in every equipment in this small Tata Winger van, wherein only one person can go at a time. Here there is much scope, but here only the embryologist can get in and do his work. That's much better also. Now these are the breeds in which we have been working so far. Gir, Sahiwal, Tharparkar, Red Sindhi, Rathi, Ongole, even Pungnur and Khilar of Maharashtra. We did do some work in exotic breeds like Holstein Friesian and Jersey, and we plan to do more. I'm going to talk to you especially separately for buffaloes, because that's where we also started to work in buffaloes for the first time in the country and succeeded in pregnancies. Now, our elite donor animals, they have been selected from the field by recording their milk, having their pedigree. These are our elite Gir donors, these are Sahiwal donors. Now, this is a fleet of about 11 Jersey, pure 100% Jersey. You know, they are only 12 months old. I'm just waiting for them. As long as we will be starting the aspiration from them in another 2 months' time. Even though they are not still cycling, we can aspirate them as a pre-pubertal heifers and make progenies out of it. We will use the good sex semen on it. They are the one which are born from the imported Jersey embryos. These embryos were given to us by the National Dairy Development Board. We thank to them for the same. Now, this is a Holstein Friesian, same way, calf born, heifer calf born from imported embryo from Cimex, Canada. We have few more of them, and these will be also used as a future donors in the exotic breed. Now, to just quickly compare between in vivo and in vitro, you know this MOET, multiple ovulation and embryo transfer, which we have done a lot of work, and nowadays we don't do it. This is a lot of multiple ovulation, and we need to stimulate the animal, and there is a hormone stimulation. We do AI on the heat and the embryo flushing on day 6 or 7, because these embryos are made inside the uterus, so we call it as an in vivo. Whereas this next one is the in vitro, wherein we do, as I explained, all the steps which I have just now explained you. Now let's compare the results of these two. You know, as you know, embryo technologies are a very powerful tool. But if you compare the MOET with OPU, see, you can have about, say, 6 embryos per flushing. You can do this only, say, 2 months apart. That's the limitation. You can do only 6 times in a year. With that 50% pregnancy rate, which is 10% better than IVF, you land with 9 calves. This I'm talking about in 6-month period. When you do OPU IVF, you can have 4 embryos per OPU in every week. You can aspirate every week. Sometimes I have even done it twice a week. Every Wednesday and every Saturday, we have been aspirating it. We have done some experiments like that also. With 40% pregnancy rate, you can get 38 calves. So you can see the 9 calves to 38 calves. All these figures, you see it. I mean, with this, you can imagine that's how we could reach our target of Gauri. So number of candidates are more born, generation interval is less, and mating with the elite donor females is possible. Now, I've told you about the technology part. Let us talk about the achievements now. Now, we had a privilege of producing India's first IVF male calf, which I named as a Krishna, maybe related with my name Sham. And the another one is India's first IVF female calf from frozen IVF embryos at our Gopal Nagar facility. They were first in the country. We have provided till now services to 34 farms across various states of India, which we will see now. We had a cow known as Radha. We named it as a Radha, and we had 14 IVF calves born from her in a span of 1 year. I have already told about Gauri to you, which we will talk later in more detail. And then I told you about, we had another interesting project given by the Andhra Pradesh Veterinary University, wherein we produced 520 Ongole IVF embryos and 14 Pungnur IVF embryos at their livestock farm, lamb farm near Guntur, and Palamner farm near Tirupati. Overall, to tell you about what we have done in last 3.5 years, is that we produce up till now 3,920 IVF embryos. So far, we have established 411 IVF pregnancies, 325 from fresh embryos, 86 from frozen embryos, 209 IVF calves are born, 160 are from fresh embryos, 49 are from frozen embryos. You may think these are very small figures compared to the amount of time which we have spent, which is almost 3.5 years. But my dear friends, keep it in mind, initially 1.5 year was really a teething trouble. The technology, there was no success in the country, but we feel very happy in having such success. And now we are, there is no end to it, and we are just unable to meet the demand. And you will see these figures multiplying very fast now. I can guarantee you that. Now, let us talk about, at a glance, see the number of aspirations we have done. Year-wise, 16, 2016 few months, 17 full year, 18, 19, and 2020, just 3 months, lockdown, nothing could be done. Some even in lockdown also we did some work, sorry. So these are the 1,615 aspirations. Around 20,000 oocytes are recovered. Average oocyte is 12.34. And then these are the oocytes which are 17,000 subjected to the in vitro culture, because you reject some oocytes. We produce 3,920 embryos. Average embryo per OPU is 2.43. But you look at, we started with 1.51, 2.22, and of late now we have gone to 3.79 embryos. Our target is to reach at least to 6 embryos per aspiration. And look at the blastocyst percentage, which is very important ratio of embryos with the in vitro culture. That has gone up to 30% with a 17% to start with. So this is how we have made the progress into the whole of this program. Now, I would like to go state-wise. These are the state 3 and 7 states we have been working. Recently, we added just before lockdown, Karnataka state also. We have 34 farmers, 119 cows born, and there are 92 pregnancies. Out of the total 400 some odd pregnancies, you can see 50% of the pregnancies and calves, including, they are at the farmer's doorstep. So this is how we can see our half of the work is being done at the field level. I don't want to go into the state-wise figure. They are all very clear state-wise. And then just before the lockdown, we have transferred 43 IVF embryos and even 4 IVF embryos are buffaloes near Bangalore. We did some work at the Sri Sri Koshala of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar also, where we need to do the pregnancy diagnosis. That was done in the Punganur cattle there. Additionally, we have got about another 105 embryos which are transferred, but we are waiting for the lockdown to be lifted and we look for the pregnancy. Now, these are the state-wise names. I don't want to go into the individual names, but these are the name of our clients in Maharashtra, and many of them probably are attending this seminar today, the workshop today, and these are our clients into Maharashtra. This is one of our first client known as Mr. Mazid Pathan from Indapur in Maharashtra, wherein you can see below a coconut tree we have our IVF van parked, and we did all work of production of embryos. This is in Sangamner in Maharashtra again. This is at KVK Baramati. We have been doing a lot of work over there with excellent support which we are getting from that Agriculture Development Trust. And in various animals, gear, sahiwal, exotic animals, and now we are thinking to do on a Pandharpuri buffaloes also at their farm. Now these are some of the cows born in Maharashtra, the Vrindavan Club. Then this is Bafna, Jai Biotech, Bafna Group. One Mr. Prakash Bafna is really very keen on expanding his herd with the IVF technology. This is Bombay Gaurakshak Mandali, Betegaon. We had a huge number of calves there, 38 IVF calves. If you want to see the field IVF calves at one place, go to this place. Then this KVK Baramati. Let's talk about Gujarat. We have these various clients with 32 cows born, so many pregnancies. Now this is again a picture of Gujarat. This is interesting, these are the Kankrej cows, which were used as a recipients and in which the Gir IVF embryos were transferred. A beautiful Gir cows were born through this Concrete cows. This is an interesting case. Identical twin male cows born of an IVF embryo, which we just implanted one, but it got split, and these are the two male cows born in a Shashwat Goshala near Rajkot, one of its kind. Now, Kerala, we have been taking embryos from our place, you can imagine, to Cochin, right from Pune to Cochin by taking different flights, and we have established 27 pregnancies over there also. Now, this is a picture of a Kerala. And then in Rajasthan, we have a client in Bikaner where we are doing transfer work, a lot of ET work with him. In Haryana, at Fatehpur, and a Jind. A Jind is a very famous farm of Mr. Baljit Singh Reddu and Pradeep Singh Reddu. I mean, this is very well-known Laksha food groups. They have got about something like 1,000 buffaloes and maybe 700, 800 cows, wherein we plan to take a huge project. Just because of lockdown, our project is delayed, but we will be doing a very big project with them. We have already parked our van over there. So we want to do a big work in Haryana. These are the cows born in Haryana. This in Punjab at a Rode dairy. Now I will take 2 minutes here. You know, the repeat breeder cows can become a very good donors. That's our experience. In case of when we do in vivo flushing, that doesn't work. But here you are only touching the ovaries. So these are some of the champion cows which had a 10,000 liters lactation milk yield, and they could not be bred for 2 years because of repeat breeding problem. She is the champion cow, give 10,000 liters of lactation, and we took the challenge and we produced embryos out of her, and we got this IVF cow born out of it. The owner was extremely happy. Like that, you can subject the repeat breeder cows as a donors. You can't accept repeat breeder recipients, mind well, but donors is okay. You can use them and you can still produce progeny out of them. Old cows, pre-pubertal heifers, there are so many choices are there. Now, Tamil Nadu also we started the work. This is where we have done doing in Tamil Nadu. These are the cows in Tamil Nadu. Andhra Pradesh, I already told you about the project. And at Punganur, we did it with Venkateshwara University. Now, this is a very interesting concept which we thought of, serving multiple states by using our, mobile lab. So we parked our mobile lab in Haryana in Jind. From there, we decided we get oocyte from various places. So we took from Maharashtra, the oocytes, we took it from our farm, Gir oocyte. Then Punjab, we brought in the HF oocyte, Jersey oocytes, and then from Rajasthan. Like that, they were all brought into that van, kept at Haryana. And these are the oocytes which we brought it. These are the embryos which we developed it. You can see the embryo picture, and they were done the fresh transfer thereafter. Now, our other significant achievements, what we have, I have already told you, these are the first calves born frozen from frozen embryos in the country. Now, this is a Radha, my one of the favorite cow. She produced 14 IVF calves in 1 year time. All these cows, people have taken with a great interest across the country. Now, this Gauri, let me tell you a little story about this. I mean, her pregnancies have been booked. Not only the cows, but their pregnancies have been also booked, that people wanted to have their calves, because we have used a very good high quality pedigree semen in breeding this cow and producing these embryos. Look at the 33 aspirations we have done, and from 33 aspirations, 696 oocytes with an average of 21 oocytes which we got, with a blastocyst percentage of 41, an average embryo about 9. I want to tell you a very important point. Those donors which perform well, they will continue to perform well whatsoever may happen. So you have to select the right donor, and they will never go back, and they will give you embryos like a factory. We produce, we take out the semen from the bull and make it best use. So let us make the best use of our females also, which have a lot of potential. So these are the embryos. We are excited every time. She gives never less than 8-10 embryos. We had times where we had 27 embryos from each aspiration at a time. I mean, we have no sufficient recipients. She really behaves. 26 calves are already born. The 15 cows are at our farm. The 6 calves at a farmer, very progressive farmer near Kalyan, Nirvana Organic Farm. Then we have one at Mr. Bafna's farm. Some more cows will be born, KVK Baramati, and another Mr. Doka near Pune, and at also Betegaon. So these are the cows which are being born from the Gauri at this Nirvana Organic Farm at Kalyan in Maharashtra. This is the one from Jai Biotech Bafna farm, Pune. This is Mr. Doka's farm at Pune. This is at our facility at Vadgaon. You can see a bunch of female cows and male cows born from the Gauri. Now, let me come to the IVF in buffaloes. This was also a dream, and we thought of let us try this IVF in buffaloes. We had one very big, large buffalo farm near Pune of Mr. belonging to Mr. Sonwane. He wholeheartedly allowed us to do the work. He has got something like 1,000 buffaloes. And we selected the donors. And this was again, we took our IVF mobile van over there. And then we subjected 10 donors to the stimulation and 10 donors without stimulation. You can see from the donors which are stimulated, we got 11.8 oocytes and the non-stimulated 5 oocytes. Average embryos with the donors which are stimulated were 3.8, and with the non-stimulated it was 0.6. Like that, we had 43 transfers we did. We got only 8 pregnancies, but still we are happy. It's around 18%. We will definitely achieve better results in due course time. And in August, first week, these 8 pregnancies will be delivering, will be having the IVF calves. It's such a big number, and also that too for the first time in the country. I'm giving a diagrammatic representation of this buffalo. It's a beautiful buffalo, one of the donor. Out of the 8 pregnancies established, this one single buffalo, we have got the 3 pregnancies, 7 embryos, and there are 3 recipients which are pregnant. So out of the 8 pregnancies, she is going to be a proud mother for the 3 IVF calves in the country. We had a privilege of having the visit of Mr. Atul Chaturvedi, Secretary, Animal Husbandry, Government of India, along with the fleet of all the senior other officials from Government of India, Government of Maharashtra, the Principal Secretary, Animal Husbandry Maharashtra, the Joint Secretary, Dairying from Delhi. So many people visited on 29th of January. They visited our lab, they saw our Gauri, and we were very happy with that. I want to tell you that our facilities have been recognized by the Animal Husbandry Department, Government of India, for giving the hands-on training on IVF and ET across the country. We want to do a batch of 6 people at a time every month from July and train as many people as possible. So this technology is being spread, and we will see that our trainees, when they go back to their places, they will deliver the goods, and we will support them even after the training. That's our commitment. Now, to last but not the least, this is my team. I'm very proud of my team. This is Dr. Vinod Patil. He is he does a lot of OPO work, transfer work. Now we have developed a concept that each one of our member should know everything. They should be able to do lab work. They should be able to do OPO work, ET work, so that, you know, a single mandate we would like to do with a minimum manpower, maximum work. He is Dr. Amol Sahare. He is Dr. Kailash Kadam, Dr. Sanjay Dagdu, Dr. Sanjeeva Kumar, Ramakant Sao. He's been with me for the last 35 years, and Akash Chaudhary. I again tell you, I'm really proud of this team, to have this team. And I'm really thankful to all of you for hearing me for so long, almost for 45 minutes. And now, I'm sure I have not seen the question and answer set because I didn't have time in between, but I will definitely have a look at it. But I think in our audience, we have Dr. Manmohan Singh. And I think the majority of you who are the veterinarians probably know Dr. Manmohan Singh. He is an IS officer from Andhra Pradesh cadre. Basically, he is a veterinarian, as you know, and he is a very proactive officer who takes keen interest in animal husbandry initiatives. He himself is the MSc Gynecology. Recently, he retired as a special Chief Secretary to Government of Andhra Pradesh. Before retirement, he held the post of Special Chief Secretary of Animal Husbandry Department, Government of AP, and also he was Vice Chancellor with the Veterinary University and other university at Hyderabad. We had a privilege of him visiting our facilities at Vadgaon. I request Dr. Manmohan Singh to say a few words, and thereafter we will take the question and answer session, and that's how we plan to conclude the session. So over to Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Shyam Jawar ji, for introducing me and also for giving me this opportunity to share my experience with JK Trust as well as JK Vovagenics. Thank you, participants, for hearing me. I'm told more than 100 participants are attending this webinar. As Dr. Shyam Jawar told, I was Vice Chancellor of Sri Venkateshwara Veterinary University, Tirupati, which is in Andhra Pradesh, in two spells. First in 2006-07 and later in 2013 to 2017. So during this period, I was also a Special Chief Secretary of Animal Husbandry Department. So I had advantage of holding both the posts. And it was very, very handy for me. In one hand, I used to make project. On the other hand, I used to sanction. And any coordination at government level was not a problem. So that was the advantage with me. And luckily with RKVY and Rashtriya Gokul Mission and other Government of India, as well as Government of AP schemes, we had enough money with us. Money was not a issue for us. I was looking for conservation of Ongole, which is a very, very prime breed of Andhra Pradesh as well as of India. And over a period of time, due to various factors, the population of Ongole breed has come down very drastically. It's a dual purpose breed and very majestic animals. But because of natural selection process, crossbreeding and all, the focus on milk was totally reduced and it has become more or less a draught animal only. And if you see the history of this animal, more than 150 years back, the Brazilians took some 100 to 500 animals from India, Ongole animals, and they started breeding. Mainly for beef purpose. Okay, so there the population of Ongole breed, if you see today, is more than 15 crore, whereas the native state, Andhra Pradesh, the population is roughly about 10 lakh. So a country which took about 600-700 animals from India is 15 crore today, and we have reduced, we never focused such a good animal and ignore its genetic potential. Now with the focus of this government on conservation of indigenous breeds, there is a lot of focus on such prime breed of India. So we took the help of JK Trust, which is not a new entity for Andhra Pradesh. I think last 20-30 years, JK Trust has been with Andhra Pradesh government. They had a lot of livestock development centers, and those days AI and other things were done through Gopal Mitras and all, as Dr. Shyam Jawar has already mentioned in detail. So these experiences we had with JK Trust, we had full confidence, and with the coming of this new technology IVF, we thought this will be the fastest route for conserving our Ongole breed as well as improving its genetic potential. So with that view, we took a major project of giving them a contract for 500 embryos. In the beginning, everybody used to feel that cost is little higher. But if you see in long run, we see the time saving, if you see the type of animals which we produce, then in long run, it is very, very economical. And we went ahead And I thank Dr. Shyam Jawar before everybody today that against the target of 500, they've already produced 520. And complementary, they have also taken up OPU in that small breed, Punganur breed, which Dr. Shyam Jawar has also told just now, which is in a very, very restricted area of Andhra Pradesh called Punganur village, which is in Chittoor district. And this district, our university SVVU is located. So in our farm, SVVU farm, only 800 Punganur animals are there. That is the total population in the whole world, you can say, of this vanishing breed. So it's very crucial for us to multiply this animal. So only our AI will not be able to do that. Therefore, combination of AI as well as IVF, we tried, and a few oocytes have been taken away by our Vadgaon lab, which also I have visited, as Dr. Shyam Jawar told. It's a world-class lab near Pune. After visiting this lab, we have also, with their help, established similar lab in Lam, Guntur district, Lam Ongole cattle breeding farm. So now we also purchased one van for taking up IVF activities in the doorstep of farmers with the help of our Andhra Pradesh Livestock Development Agency. So we were also thinking when I was there, now since I have retired, I don't know what is happening, but we were thinking of a sharing model. Many farmers have got very good elite animals. So we will bear the cost of entire IVF. We will go to their doorstep. We will pick up the ovum, and the rest of the cost at the lab, which is Vadgaon, either in Vadgaon or in Lam farm, we will do it. And then the progeny, which is produced, we can share. So farmer will also get a large number of progeny. As Dr. Jawar was telling, about 70 to 80 animals per year. We can produce 70 to 80 pregnancies. Think that it will take 70 to 80 years for that animal to produce. So this is the, what I say is time is money. So in long run, it is very, very economical, and even farmers, they are coming forward for the sharing model. We don't have to keep the animal in our farm. The farm will, animal will be in the respective breeders and farmers. And similarly, we can have tie-up for the faster animal also. That also we need not bring to our farm and feed them and rear them. So this sharing model we are working out, and I'm sure with hand-holding support by JK Boba Genix, Andhra Pradesh government will definitely take forward whatever was started during my time. We also sent two of our young faculty to Brazil and also to Vadgaon for training in IVF. And then we thought after 500 embryos are produced by JK Trust, we will take forward on our own with the help of timely, periodical support by the JK Trust. So this is how we were going ahead. So this is the experience, very nice experience I have with JK Boba Genix. And this is all possible because of the leadership of Dr. Shyam Jawar. I would like to once again thank him for all the support which he has given, and also thanking him for giving me this opportunity to join in this webinar. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, everyone.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, for your kind words, and we are grateful to you for sparing your valuable time. Now I'll look at the question and answers and try to answer as much of them as possible. But in case if I'm not able to complete all of them due to the time constraint, you are most welcome to get in touch with me, and we'll be more than happy to try to answer your almost all the questions. Let me start with a very first question, which has come. How you are transporting USG machine from farm to doorstep of the farmer for collection of oocytes? Whether every time you're taking permission or you have a special permission for IVF work. you know, the USG machine, you are registering it in a particular state, and with that you can take across. There is no problem. I mean, that machine is need to be registered as we have to tell a portable model, so there should not be any problem. We are taking this portable machine all across the state. Another question is that you had 286 embryos and 77 were positive. Yes, I mean, not all 286 embryos have been transferred. There are some embryos which are frozen. So it doesn't mean that the 77 pregnancies of Gauri are from 286. There are some embryos which are in a frozen state with us. Then I have another question. Just 1 minute. Okay, let me see. As per the experience in providing IVF facilities across the country, how much the dairy farmers have moved and what level of changes have you seen? As a good question, you know, people, we need to educate them. Just now, as Dr. Manmohan Singh said, we need to tell the genetic value as to what benefit they are looking, should not look at right now, but in the future, what sort of a benefit they will get out of it. Once these high pedigree IVF born females will start coming into the milk production, I tell you, that time the technology, there will be more takers for this technology. Then do we have sorted sex embryos? Yes, we do have the sorted sex embryos. If anybody is interested, get in touch with us. Which all grades of oocyte you go for further processing? See, normally all oocytes except the E grade oocytes, we always even put the D grade oocytes also for the maturation. We don't throw them. You never know. Even some of them also turning out to be an embryo. What all grades? That's right. Do you keep all the oocytes of A, B, C, D for maturation? Yes. We, as I told you, we keep for the maturation all the oocytes right up to D. Is IVF procedures use sex semen or not? Yes, we use the sex semen. The people don't want to give us the sex semen, but we do use the sex semen of different breeds. We have used Gir, Sahiwal, Jersey, HF, because that's where the need is today. Everybody wants that. Sir, what were the results you found using sex semen in IVF pregnancies and with various breeds? I tell you, it's a big question, but very, very interesting results. I don't know. I don't want to tell sex semen of which company was better at this stage, because that will not be correct on my part. But we have got a phenomenal good results. You know, it all depends on the cleavage percentage. What sort of a cleavage you are getting from the sex semen use. And some of the sex semen which we have used have given some of the bulls, I know, if they have really given a very good results. And we are in the process of getting sex semen of other breeds also very soon. Sir, what more results have you found using sex semen and IVF pregnancies and with various breeds? I think I have answered this question. Then why the trigas is preferred over CO2 gas for oocyte maturation? No, for oocyte maturation, you know, you can have the carbon dioxide into the CO2 incubator, no problem. You get good maturation. But there is, if you use the IVM media, which is HIPS media, you don't need even gas also for the maturation. You don't need it. Even the CO2 also, you put into regular micro-key incubator because the media is different. And if there is nothing, no preference like that, that you need to have a trigas. But the lab mix incubator, which we are using it, I tell you, it's very, very handy for transporting embryos, oocytes, multiple function, and it's a very, very good equipment developed by this WTA company of Brazil. I'm not promoting any of their product, but this is our use. Then do you have a super ovulate donor animal? You know, this we have done lots of work on stimulation and non-stimulation. Ultimately, let me tell you, getting this Faltropin is very expensive, almost about 15,000 rupees a vial. And we found, as far as the Bos indicus is concerned, you don't need to use at all the stimulation. You get the same results irrespective whether you use the stimulation or you don't use the stimulation. But in case of exotic animals with HF and Jersey, definitely you will need particularly in buffaloes, with a small trial we have seen, we do need the, we need to use the poltropin. Do you superovulate donor animal? As I told you, what is the cost of one pickup and freezing and embryo transfer? Oh, good question. The ovum pickup, total expenses on ovum pickup. Earlier, when gradually you have seen our results were 1.5 embryos per aspiration. Now we are touching to about 4 embryos, and soon we will be touching to 6 embryos per OPU. Earlier we used to charge 40,000 rupees per aspiration. Now we have brought down the cost to 30,000 rupees per aspiration, and which includes freezing and everything completely. That all process it includes. For embryo transfer, we only charge the expenses for the recipient synchronization. Now, why do you adopt IVF technology instead of artificial insemination? How is commercially feasible? I think this question has been very well answered by Dr. Manmohan Singh, and during my talk also, that there is artificial insemination and the application of IVF technology. I've got these are two different tools, wherein the advantage of IVF is definitely much more better. But you cannot be thinking of doing IVF like an AI. The genetic progress you can get very good through AI also. But on a limited animals, which are your super animal, genetically very superior animal, if you want to multiply them fast, there is no other way than IVF, I can tell you that. Is there any provision of embryo transfer training at our facility? Yes, that's what I told. 4 weeks training approved by Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India. We are going to start from 1st of July, and the fees will be rupees 1 lakh for 4 weeks, including lodging and boarding, which is very, very reasonable fees. We have no intention of making any money out of that training. We want to have many people train at JK Trust. We feel proud, and we'll feel proud that our trainees are from, the people who have been trained are from JK Trust, and we will give them further support after the training. We just don't want to leave them after the training. They have to produce the embryos at our farm by themselves before they leave our campus for 4 weeks. That's sort of an intensive training which I plan to give it. Live on the animals, no theoretical training, complete practical training. This is another question, is that I would like to know the market situation and how much opportunity is there in India, as I myself perform IVF and looking forward to grow in this field. Yeah, there is enough market. You need to educate the people. You need to show the results. A lot of extension work is required, and I'm sure there will be a lot of demand coming over a period of time. You have to tap the good animals. Breed improvement have been done through the artificial insemination as well. How it increase milk production and capital appreciation. Please give an idea about total expenditure to establish an IVF lab, excluding building cost. I mean, you can come to me and you can write to me, but I can tell you, this will be the budget which I'll tell you phenomenally low. You give me 100 by 100 square feet room, just 100 square feet room, and we'll establish a beautiful IVF lab for you. Give us a BOT contract, build, operate, and transfer. We built it, we operate it, we transfer the whole technology to you. You don't need so many equipments which we think of sophisticated equipment. Whole laboratory, including building and everything, can be set in a maximum budget of 75 lakh rupees. And you can get into details from me anytime. Getting more number of oocyte of collection, what things are needed to take, example, hormone, season, technique. There's so many factors are there that you need to have a good animal with a good body score, good ovary size to aspirate them. And those donors, as I told you, which perform better, will always be good donors. And those who don't respond, you try 2 to 3 times, and if they don't perform, you will have to take them out from the program. This is our personal experience of the last 4 years. And also, this is how the literature also is there. In Desi cattle, the length of catheter is how much? I'm sorry, is it the same as HF? No, there is no question of catheter here, In the OPU, in IVF technique, we are just having that OPU needle holder. We just want to reach to the vaginal wall, and then our needle ovaries are brought across the probe and the needle goes into the follicle. So there is no requirement of there is no difference between the catheter length, because we are not doing in vivo, this is in vitro. we can't say that one calf born 38 calves, she produced n number of embryos, but at the same time, to convert into final product calf, it requires a requisite number of recipients, which again we, the customer, need to invest them into them and expenses of feeding. Could you please explain about it? That's a very good question. That we can't say that one calf born 38 calves like that. You're thinking, I mean, to have IVF calves, you need recipients. As right now, just Dr. Manmohan Singh said, I'm thinking of a scheme that if you have got a good elite donor cow, invite us, we will take out its oocyte, we will use the best of the semen, and we will produce the calves. Recipients is our botheration, and we will give a 3-month-old calf of any breed you want at a particular cost. That is, you need not bother of maintaining the recipients. That solves your a big question of not maintaining the recipient, but still you can have a genetically superior pedigree from your animals. Could you give I think I'll take another 10 minutes because there's so many questions. Could you give me any figure about difference in the production of milk yield of same breed of developed by natural breeding, artificial insemination versus IVF? I'm sorry, these figures are still not there because our IVF calves which are born, they are yet to come into the milk. They are on the verge of getting into pregnancy now. I understand the cost of 3-month-old female calf is double the price of the normal available calf. Could you explain how much milk production will be that? That's a very good question. You know, pedigree. I mean, we have been talking about, we always think of the initial cost, but you look at the long run cost. You study the pedigree. Now, let me tell you, the Gauri, which is around 3,000 to 3,500 liters of milk, and the semen which I have used it on that, it's a semen which we got it, some Brazilian semen, and the dam's milk yield of those bull is mentioned as a 17,162 kgs. You know, there. So it's all depend on the pedigree. You have to pay for the pedigree. Is only Gauri is a donor available? No, I have already shown you. We have got 7 gear donors. We are going to add some more gear donors. We have got 7 Sahiwal. I think not only Gauri, we can't be. We are catering the needs of the country. So we are having different donors at our farm, but we are also working with the donor of the clients also, because some of the people, they have got some extraordinary good donors. Sir, happy to see you action after 14 years. You thirst for technology. Yeah, that's complimentary. How do you stimulate it? I mean, stimulation is a protocol where you use the poltropin, you have the CIDR protocol, and then with the Preg-HIT, estradiol benzoate, and the stimulation protocol, you can get in touch with me. I can share with you the different protocols. I had the privilege of working at JKT. That's fine. Thank you. Then what is the pregnancy rate you are getting of frozen embryos, sir? What precaution you are taking during the freezing of IVF embryos? Let me tell you the world averages. Let me talk to you about. See, normally the averages of the all world figures. I've been attending almost all international congresses on embryo transfer. That's my favorite thing to attend every year. Now, you normally with the in vivo embryos, with the fresh embryos, you get 60% pregnancy rate. With the frozen fresh embryo, with the frozen embryos of MOET, in vivo, you get land into 50% pregnancy. With the IVF embryos, you get 40% pregnancy rate. And with the frozen embryos, you get about 30% pregnancy rate. Today, we are almost on the IVF fresh embryos, we are on 35% pregnancy rate. And with the frozen embryos, we are on 25% pregnancy rate. I don't want to escalate my figures and tell you, but our target is to reach the minimum world figures. As we have already reached into embryo figure, we have reached to 4 embryos per OP, which is quite good. And we have a target to reach to 6 embryos, reaching to 40% pregnancy rate with the fresh and at least 30% pregnancy rate with the frozen embryos. Now, how many ova can you pick up from a heifer at a time with OP? Oh, very good question. See, I had a wonderful experience. We have a ova, we have picked up from heifer 70 ova at a time. 70 ova from a gear heifer. So, Gauri sometimes has given ova from 50 to 60, 50 to 70. Heifers, you can still get more. So, there is, you know, you go on pricking it. but you have to be very fast and prick the follicles without pricking your fingers, and you should finish up that in 15 minutes. I think it's already 4:15. Let me answer the last few questions in next 5 minutes. What is the blastocyst conservation rate you are getting when using sex-sorted semen? Yeah, the blastocyst conversion rate, as I told you, the cleavage rate, once it is good, you are landing with a good blastocyst conversion rate. If you don't get a good cleavage rate, automatically your blastocyst rate is lower. So even with the sex semen, we got very good results. Congress, Maharashtra, I think there's other messages. Can we get the details of Jersey cow potential details to be born through your organization? Yeah, I tell you that these are the 13 elite Jersey which we have got it. I'm really grateful to National Dairy Development Board for giving those embryos, because the males which are being produced, they will be distributed to the various semen stations, but the females have been told we can keep it, and they are really very elite when I was studying their pedigree. And we will be using the best sex semen. So you will have a fantastic pedigree embryos of the Jersey. If you want even a 3-month-old calf of Jersey, we will be able to give it to you by producing the calf at our own place. What is the average? Do you think the buffalo would be better than with the stimulation? Yeah, I feel whatever work which you have seen in Brazil also, they have been working in Murra, you know, they have taken from India. They do stimulate, and we need to stimulate the buffaloes. We are very keen to do a lot of work in buffaloes. Those who are interested with buffaloes, they can get in touch with me. I think, how are you doing with the synchronization of large number of recipients at a time, or taking a naturalist? Say synchronization, we found the best protocol is using, it's a little expensive, but best protocol is this intravaginal device, the CIDR. You get really good results. And in between, if you give a shot of follicle stimulating hormone, about 400 IU, you really get a very good results. The old protocol, you know, is a 2 PG protocol, but we have been following little expensive protocol, but we are getting very good results. There are a few more questions. I mean, now we are really, it's already 4:15. So their vitrification and other questions, they need a detailed answer. Any one of you are most welcome to write a mail to me, get in touch with me, and it will be my pleasure to answer your rest of the question. I really, once again, I think, thank you very much for attending this webinar and giving us an opportunity to tell about our work. This would have not been possible without the best wishes and blessings of you all. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead.